question, which is, what's the greater force at work now in the Middle East, in the Arab world? Is it Arabism, that sense of the Arabs as a people, or is it Muslim, the sense of the people as believers? What's the stronger force?
It's a difficult question to answer, but I would start by saying this way. I think that although the idea of Islam as a nation is very strong, it doesn't have much practical application. If you look at the relations between Arabs and Persians, the Iraqis and the Persians fought a murderous war for 8 years. There's no doubt that the sympathy of the Arabs was with their Iraqi brethren and not with their Iranian neighbors. Relations between the Turks and the Arabs are not bad, but they are certainly not warm. Mm-hmm. Between Turks and Persians, again, they are not bad, but they are not warm. So I think Islam as a cohesive force is less strong than local nationalism. Now,
the desire to be Egyptians, the desire to be Syrians, the desire to be Iraqis,
and
right.
Turks and Iranians, of course. Yes, this I think is probably the strongest thing. I am really amazed how strong the states have proved to be. So many of them were artificial. They were created out of nothing. And one just wondered why they had been created. Sometimes the reason was very obvious. For instance, in my opinion, Jordan should have been called Transpipelinia, because that's its main function was to provide a thing. But Jordan has
Winston
become...
Churchill thought up Jordan over lunch, I think, mythologically.
I believe so, yes, I believe so. And he had to find a place for King Abdullah, and he did. But Jordan today has become, to my amazement, a real entity, and people do feel Jordanian. And I think the explanation is this. People have lived under a common rule for 50, 60, 70 years. The state has dispensed services, education, health, and so forth. It has given jobs. And people now identify with their local state. There's a great yearning for something bigger. There's a great feeling, wouldn't it be nice if all the Arabs got together?
Pan-Arabism.
Pan-Arabism.
Which is used, isn't it, not for very political purposes, for arousing the crowds, for pleasing the mobs?
Yes, my sad reflection is that it can be used very effectively to stop things and not to do things.
What do you mean?
Well, if any country is doing something which the others don't like, they can raise a hue and a cry and stop it. But it doesn't go to anything positive. There have been very few pan-Arab ventures. There have been one or two. There have been some money flowing from the richer to the poorer. There have been one or two institutions set up, but very, very little.
Well, what does this say to you, that despite the strong appeal and fervor of Islam, and despite the patriotic euphoria that the rhetoric of pan-Arabism can create, the local and human divisions and competitive natures are just more powerful than the rhetoric?
Yes, very reluctantly, I'd have to say yes.
What does that make you think about the future there, for the Arab world?
Well, one doesn't know. One can either be a cynic and a realist and just say it'll go on exactly the same, or one can say there are few forces